Hi, book club members. I'm Jen.
And I'm Carrie.
And this is Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crag. This is the most wonderful time of the year, book club episode number 138, and we are doing our annual tradition of reading the next Red Gobbo book. This is Long Live the Red Gobbo by Justin Woolley. It tells yet another misadventure of the Red Gobbo becoming quickly our favorite Christmas tradition. We posted several questions on our, well, actually we didn't, because this one is more of a freestyle conversation every year. But we did post questions on our website, WH40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our conversations via YouTube, our site, or Encrypted Vox channel. Spoiler warning. If you haven't yet read the book, definitely check it out before listening to this episode, as we're going to be breaking it down for you. As always, Carrie, did you like the book?
I had fun. Yeah.
They're fun. These are like... We talk a lot about like candy bar and popcorn books. I feel like these are like the very definition of the fun-sized candy bar book.
I agree.
What part stood out to you?
Ah, crap. Should have written this stuff down, shouldn't I? Honestly, whole idea of a squig named Fluffy.
It needs to meet Princess.
And I like how Fluffy got trained. Just by beating the crap out of it. He's like, okay, fine. I guess you can ride me.
I feel like literally everybody read Mike Brooks naming a squig Princess, and we're like, oh my God. Fluffy the squig. I did like, that was particularly humorous. I like the concept that the Red Gobbo needs a purpose, and that purpose is to rebel against the orcs. So like the entire intro was such a fun concept, because you have now, because we've always said that, right? At the end of these books, we're always like, okay, but now what happens?
Right.
Like, where do they go from here? And I like that this really answered the question. Is that okay? We've gotten away from the orcs, but we killed them all, we took their ship, we got away. Now what? The Red Gobbo just kind of
Yeah.
Even though orcs don't have a concept of depression.
Right. It's just, he's like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, because I think grots have always had to have a purpose. Their purpose was doing whatever the orcs had to say. But, but at least one thing we say about the orcs is that they know their purpose, and that's to go crumpin'. That's their purpose.
I like the idea too that the grots always kind of need a boss.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be an orc. It can be the Red Gobbo, but they need to have that person who tells them what to do. And they have that little bit of like mischievous spark to them. But, yeah, they always like to have somebody. And I did like, that is, no, use free now. Okay, well, what do we do now that we're free? Like, you need to tell us how to be free. Oh my goodness. This is going to be hard.
Well, it kind of actually, here we go, Dragon Age reference, kind of reminded me of in Dragon Age 2, when Hawk frees this elf slave, because in Tevinter they have slavery. And I really did kind of like how Dorian in Dragon Age Inquisition explained slavery. But when she freed this one, or my Hawk was a she, when she freed this one slave, and the slave was, and she's like, well, you're free, you could do whatever. She's like, I don't know what to do. Like, can I stay here? I will cook. I will clean. I'll do whatever. Like, you don't have to be a slave. She's like, please, I'd have to do this. Because she literally has no idea what to do with her life, because that's all she's ever known. And it's kind of the same way with these grots. It's like we've always had to do this, but we don't know what to do. Now we don't have to do that anymore. So they crash land on this planet like, oh, hey, there's more grots to free. Well, now we have a purpose.
Exactly. I liked and I liked that the Red Gobbo, who he just kind of looked like a regular Gobbo until they land and they see there's grots to free, and then he gets taller and he really steps back into that persona, right? It's this, I like the idea that the Red Gobbo is basically a quasi magical persona that somebody adopts when they see, like when they're in the right conditions, when we have to free these grots from the orcs. Especially given how rough their lives are, just in general. I didn't write it down and I should have. It's early on, but it's when they were talking about crash landing. And they're like, oh yeah, we had heard that sand was soft. So that should make the crash not so bad. No, sorry.
I kind of cracked up, and there was 430 something grots, and now there was like 30. Not that they could count that high, but I thought that was kind of funny. It's like we no longer had heaps and heaps or even lots and lots. We had some.
Was their plight worth it? Like, did they do enough damage to justify the losses?
Probably not, but at least
Well,
they
okay.
died free, right?
There is that. If you're a grot, is it about sending a message?
I mean, I guess that's kind of what this whole thing was about, right? When
Right.
he took his gubbins and he just could have or the DACA, he just could have taken it, but no, he had to write the Red Gobbo was here.
Yes, because the whole book was more about, it's not, I guess, if we had to find the theme of this book, I say very pretentiously, it was more of that concept of like, look, the Red Gobbo is here to make Grot's lives a little bit better by reminding the orcs that we can deliver a blow to them, and we're not just these mindless things that they can boss around. I mean, we really are that, but every now and then we give them what's for. We give them a taste of their own medicine. I liked the idea that it is just kind of a, we just kind of keep you in check.
Well, there's the whole idea of like, my favorite scenes from Disney's, or Pixar, I should say, A Bug's Life. When the big grasshopper, they're like, why are we doing this? So there's just a few ants. And so he takes one seed and throws it at the grasshopper. He's like, did that hurt? No. And then he kicks the whole thing over and all the seeds come down and bury and kill him. It's like, and that is what would happen if we let the ants get their way just one time. When they all realize there's more of them than us. It's the same thing with the grots. In a way, it's the same thing with the Space Marines, right? You get enough people, kind of doing the Soviet way of solving problems. You throw enough people at it, you're going to overwhelm them like ants.
I can't remember. I'm sure somebody will be able to pop it in there, but it's one of the Siege of Terra books. Is when is it the first wall, maybe? It's when they figure out that through Euphrates, because of course, they figure out that it takes about 50 humans to take down a Space Marine. And that is acceptable losses. They basically develop the Imperial Creed, which is, to your point, the Russian mentality of just throw bodies at it. Mm-hmm. Eventually we'll take it down. So it's going to take 100 people to take down 2 Space Marines, and that's worth it.
Right.
It's the concept, there is that sort of rebellious, and you think, now what's interesting is when, one of the things about the Red Gobbo, and they kind of touch it in these books, but it was, I can't think of his name right now, the Gosgul Thraka book, when they were talking about Makari, and they're talking to Makari, which also, to Red Gobbo, the grots are just fascinating in general, because it just dawned on me that Makari, remember they were like, wait a minute, how are you Makari? Makari died. And he's like, well, I wasn't Makari. And then I was Makari.
Right.
This idea that there's some type of orcish magic just flittering around about them, right? But
honestly,
they talk
the
about
are
how
probably some of my favorite parts of the orcs, just in how how they react. Yes, it's funny how the orcs treat them. Like when I think it was Blood Spillo and he was throwing a fit, and they're like, when he was, done throwing things and grots and done kicking things and grots. Yeah.
I did like how many times they referenced that. But they talked in that Gosgul Thraka book about how the grots, basically it is ingrained, like programmed in them to serve the orcs and have the orcs treat them like crap. He's like, well, of course he treats us like crap. That's just what our lot in life is.
What was it Bloodspilla was telling them that the purpose of the grots was to do the boring stuff that the orcs didn't want to do? I kind of like that.
I just love orc names in general. By the way, Bloodspilla is a wonderful, wonderful orc
And then you
name.
get poor grot names like Snotta and Slipbit and Trunk.
Slip bit sounds like a roadie for Slipknot.
You're
I
not a
kept
full
thinking of that.
Slipknot. You're a
That's right.
Slipbit.
You're just a slip bit. Our roadie, the guy who carries in the speakers. I kept thinking that the whole book. I like I like just that whole concept of like there's something ingrained with us, but then there's also this kind of magical rebellious spark that flies through us and just, on a micro level, right? Because there's so many orcs and there's so many grots. And then we just balance the scales, as it were. Was Bloodspilla a good orc?
Yeah, he was pretty dang orky.
He was pretty funny in general. I did like, okay, so this is super random, but I did like the like quasi I am Spartacus
Oh
moment
my
at
god.
the end.
Well, that whole thing was just so great. Like they're putting him in the gladiator ring, and then they're all, I am the Red Gobbo. It's like, oh my god. In any time they're making fun of that scene in Spartacus, I am here for it, man.
Pretty much. Anytime that gets referenced, I'm always like, absolutely. Eyes to Red Gobbo. Eyes to Red Gobbo. I was like, oh my god. I also like the idea, because we've always talked about this, and every time we read a workbook, the orcs' biggest enemy are themselves to their own success, right? The grots, same. Like, you guys came together like this, and we're like, oh, we're unified, and this is the plan. But, you're grots. you're grots, so you're kind of hindered by your own lot in life.
It was like, their plan. It was actually a pretty darn good plan when they wrote in.
It was.
And they just were counting on Bloodspilla to die. And when he did, it's like, well, crap. Now what? We didn't think that far ahead.
Right.
And instead of maybe hiding, oh wait, gubbins.
Again, shiny. They are. I like the idea that they are capable of being more within what they are, but they really are just are what they are. What they are, right? Like you have these moments of greatness, these moments of uniformity, moments of revolution, but then you just kind of go back to being what you were. I did like in the end when the Gobbo was like, I'm sorry, we're all gonna die. Oh, it's not your fault. I mean, it kind of was. It was, it was your plan that we were all following.
Right.
They have.
But they were happy to die free.
Yep. You're gonna die, but at least you're free. And you caused a lot of chaos.
You could say that they were doing the whole live free or die hard.
That's true. They were living free and dying hard at the same time. I like it.
Yeah.
In general, I like. Again, these are just. I love this as a Christmas tradition because it's just kind of fun.
Yep.
And the best part about it is it fits fully within the orc lore.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The whole, the gladiator pit, a fluffy squig, like it's all ridiculous and yet totally within the orc's idiom.
Honestly, that thing with Fluffy, he was describing about, people coming in or the orcs coming in and trying to tame him. And they were like, you would think that the ones who got bitten head first were the unlucky ones. Those were just the less lucky ones. But then when they explained what real unlucky means, it's like, okay, yes, that is pretty unlucky. I guess it would be better just to, immediately be killed instead of that.
The squigs are kind of delightful.
Yes, I do enjoy the squigs.
What's funny, so pigs freak me out. I am not a fan of pigs. They freak me out. So you would think that I hate the squigs, but the squigs are like the complete and total cartoon version of why I hate pigs.
Oh yeah.
Why they confuse me, or confuse is the wrong word. Why they creep me out. I love them. So I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much what I assume pigs are.
I mean, it's legit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um,
Especially hogs. Maybe not pigs as much, but
uh,
definitely like wild boars. Those wild boars, those hogs. Definitely very squig like.
very much so. Very aggressive, very um yeah, no, pigs, the fact that they will eat anything, human bodies.
Well, yes.
Um holy shit. They freak me out. Boars in particular. But yes, I like the whole idea of the squigs. I think they're fun. I think they're charming and cute, and they've taken it's like they're like the antithesis to Babe. And I want you to know that every time I read these books, my first thought with a lot of them is, that'll do, squig. That'll do. As they are just causing havoc and violence.
What if there's like a teacup squig? That might be cute.
Cup pigs are still just pigs. They're just itsy bitsy.
Oh, but see, I can handle teacup pigs because they're so adorable. They're so cute.
They would eat you.
If they got big enough, that's the thing. You just don't let them get big enough.
Oh my goodness. Okay, their little snoots are cute. But a teacup squig would kind of defeat, actually, because grots are what? About the size of humans?
Are they? I thought they were like
I
the
think they're
size of like children.
I thought they were like somewhere like maybe the size of like our teenagers. Like they're not quite human size, but they're, kind of mid size.
Yeah, like
Well, I don't
not
know. Your teenager
toddlers,
just got
but
really
like
child.
preteens. It's kind of what I
Maybe?
figured.
I don't know. Maybe that is, but I'm trying to figure out like how big a squig is.
I think it depends because they talked about how these were like they were breeding them to be massive.
Huge.
But
But like,
Princess, remember Princess could ride on his shoulder, so Princess is
yeah.
probably a teacup squig.
So like, what does that translate to? Is that like the size of like a Shih Tzu?
Sure,
I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to like, a bulldog?
but
Like a
like
British
from the
bulldog?
first Space Marine game, they had the squigs that were strapped down. They were the kamikaze squigs,
That's true. Yeah.
and they were about the size of dogs.
Yeah. That's true.
Or at
When they were
least they
talking
look
about
like dogs from comparison for Captain Titus, and he wasn't Primaris yet, but they're still like what 7 feet tall. Like they're still like
6 to
massive.
7.
Yeah, they're still massive human beings. So
By the way, Space Marine 2, huge shout out to Gale. Gale. The scale is correct for the Primaris. Everything about them, correct. It cracks me up, but there are some times where like you're fighting the Hormagaunts and you're just like, oh, there's itsy bitsy. And then all of a sudden, like a human will come into frame and you're like, nope, never mind. Those are big. Those are big and terrifying. Not to me, but to me, it's like the size of like a, German Shepherd. It's a big alien. Um, but yes, I the concept of the squigs, I don't know why, it's probably one of my favorite things in orc culture. They're just too cute and they're fun. And I like that you can make them cutesy and everyone goes, yeah, that tracks.
and then they can also be extremely terrifying. Especially when they
Yes.
have bombs strapped to their backs and they're running towards you with the big old smiles on their faces.
That's just funny. They're like the what are the ones from Loader? They're like the Wolf Rider guys. What are the things that the goblins ride? Oh my god. Y'all, I'm not wording today. It is almost the end of the year.
Yeah, it's like nearly Christmas.
It's nearly Christmas. I am on winter break starting on Friday afternoon.
What were those things in
Mm,
the Half-Life game? So I never played Half-Life, but a
the
friend
head
of mine,
crabs?
no, friend of mine did, and he always played on a very low resolution just because he could actually had a good frame rate, blah 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 blah. And there was these things. I was like, oh my god, it looks like a pug that would come running towards you, but if it got too close, then it would start to scream and would explode. That's kind of what I think of the squigs. So like these cute little pugs running at you that explode.
Or will try to eat you head first
That too.
if you're lucky. Um, yeah. I love that they do this tradition. I like that they release it every year. It's a really nice way for us to end the year. Just a nice fun little story that really, I think that these, honestly, if I were to point to some of the best books for really understanding orc culture,
Oh yeah.
these are kind of them. Like, I mean, obviously I love the Mike Brook books. I love Brutal Cunnin. I loved the Gosgol Thraka book by Nate Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
Loved all of those, obviously. But I feel like you really get to understand orc logic and the way that their society, they live in a society,
What was that?
the way that it works.
What was that one? It was not written by Mike Brooks. So when they had all those different factions of orcs that were trying to get to like this elven portal or the Eldari portal.
Oh, that one. I thought that one was written by Mike Brooks. It was the one that didn't have the Brutal Cunnin
Yes. Yes.
guys in it. Yeah, it's the one that's because there's. Oh, what is it? What is it called?
Well, regardless, like that's because that one actually did not have the brutal cunning orc, but I thought it was.
I think it's War Boss. Isn't it War Boss?
Is that War Boss?
Because there's the Big Daka and
Uh-huh.
Brutal Cunnin, and I think War Boss is the one that comes in between. Because that's how what's his face from Brutal Cunnin ends up into Big Daka with the Eldari portal.
Okay.
Is War Boss. I think. So I'm trying to think the other orcs books that we've read. War Boss, what was the other one? Yeah, I think that was it. Because the other books that we read was like Gosgol Thraka by Nate Crowley, and then there was the Caiaphas Cain book that had the orcs in it.
Right.
Very technically outgunned, had orcs in it.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the one. War Boss.
Okay. For some reason I thought it was written by somebody else. Have you read any other orc books?
Pull that up. Let's click on the orcs. Because we've read the Red Gobbo books, obviously. To Big Daka, War Boss, Outgunned, Caves of Ice, Gosgol Thraka, Prophet of the Wall, Brutal Cunnin, and there's the war, but there's the way.
Okay.
Unless we didn't tag it orcs, and I'm just being a big dummy right now. That is not beyond the pale.
Right.
To agree so regular for readily. Can't talk tonight. The words aren't wording, but yes. So that was the one where they had all those different factions, and they were all trying to race for that Eldari portal.
Yeah.
And that one was a pretty good way on how the orcs operate. I feel like all of the books really, you get a good feel for them. Like sometimes with some of the Space Marine books, you don't. It's hard when people are like, hey, where do I start? Well, okay, well, it kind of depends on what faction. And it's really hard with some of the Space Marine books because you get like I always point to the Ultramarines Omnibus as like, that's a really good place to start because it really kind of eases you into all of the different things that they face, right? But that teaches you about the Ultramarines, who are very different from the Blood Angels, who are very different from the Dark Angels. And so like, it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, that'll teach you everything you need to know about Space Marines. The orcs, I think probably because they are a little bit more simplistic.
Right.
Like you can pick up any of those books, but I feel like these are always such a great, just like, hey, slice of life of the orcs. This is how they work. This is how silly they are.
I mean, they named their ship the Big Thumper. I mean,
that's just a great name. Although it does make me think of the thing from Dune, the thumper thing that they used to call the worms. The Big Thumper. I was like, ooh, you can get big worm with that one, especially when they crashed in on the sand too.
Oh man, we found the orcs versus those worms.
Oh my god, they would be so happy and excited. They would be using the Thumpas though for sure, just to call them up, just for the lulz.
Yeah, so that means we need to summon the orcs to that planet from the Kazarkin book.
That would be funny.
Right?
That would just add to the chaos, though, of that world.
Oh, yeah. Orcs versus Necrons.
We've got Necrons. They don't like the shiny boys though, because they're not as fun. Um, yeah, this is a fun way. It was a great last book for the year. I think they're just fun little things, and I keep hoping that they keep doing them. I don't really have anything super deep.
Well, no, I mean, this was like what 100 pages, so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's about as deep as the orcs get,
yeah. That's probably true.
or the grots, I should say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um,
And I'd like to think that Snotta was successful with the revolution, and they did end up killing Bloodspilla.
yeah, I think it's a fair thing. The one group wins a symbolic yet pyrrhic victory,
Right.
and the the implication is, of course, that the Red Gobbo just continues. He will appear somewhere else, right? There will be someone will just be doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they will be the Red Gobbo, and lead orcs or the Gobbos to victory against the orcs. Why the heck not?
Oh, another thing I liked in here is that we've seen it before. I like I like the orcs there, or the grots, how they feel about the weird boys.
Yeah,
Anytime anybody describes like the weird boys, I'm like, this is so dang funny, because
the
obviously
weird boys in general are fun,
they just have obviously no idea what they are doing, right? They
right?
just kind of go with what the warp does with them,
How the warp wills it.
right?
A child playing with dynamite for sure.
Oh, what? Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yes.
The weird boys are probably some of my favorite probably some of my favorite part of the orcs in general. I like that they're just called the weird boys.
Right.
And there is
I like that everybody respects them. Just kind of keep things.
right, just in Dungeons and Dragons, if you play a sorcerer, there's something that you can get called wild magic. And every time you cast like a certain level spell, you have to roll a die to see what wild thing happens. And it reminds me so much of the Weird Boys every time, because like you'll cast like chain lightning and then you'll roll a die and all of a sudden you're a talking plant for like the next 24 hours.
Cool.
It reminds me of the Weird Boys. We always call it like orc magic, or we're always like, this is just orc magic at this point. It's fun stuff. You can have a lot of fun with it as a DM and as a and role playing thing. I think you could do it in Baldur's Gate 3 as well. I never did a sorcerer though, because that's for nerds. Monk for life. Um, oh man, Baldur's Gate 3. We need another game like that. Yeah, I like the Weird Boys. I thought they had pretty much everybody show up in here. I love the names of the different factions. All I really got.
Yeah, I love the fact that they were called the snake bites, and yet they were trying to not do things with the new technology, but the old ways. I'm like, yes, like a snake oil salesman. This is really a lot of fun.
For sure. Just good symbolism, good little things in there.
Yeah, really not much to say about it.
Yeah, that's all I got. I'm sorry.
Right.
I liked it. It's cute. It's adorable. It's definitely worth the hour it takes to read it.
Right.
It's just fun. By the way, the fact that they call their ships cruisers, like Kroozer, will just never stop being funny to me.
No, they got a cruise.
Yeah,
They don't fly, they cruise.
They cruise. Rocks too.
I
Good
do
stuff.
like the rocks.
The whole concept that just because they believe it, it works. The rocks are really good. Yeah. Our next podcast is going to be our game of the year. Oh my god, I need to quit for the night. Things are just oh god. So sorry. The brain is not braining right now. Will be our book club book of the year awards. Really excited for 2024. We have a lot of stuff. I was kind of dreading doing the book club awards this year because I was like, oh man, we had to dig into the Wayback Machine so many times until like the middle of the year, and it's just nothing but new. So really excited for it once I actually started going back and like doing the tally of all the books
Right.
that we read.
Yeah, I haven't even tried to look back at that. I'm afraid. But at least I hope, I say this like every book, I say this every year at the book club. I hope I took actually good notes this year so that when I go back to like January and February, I'll be like, oh, that's right. There was that book.
Yeah, because if you include the Red Gobbo, we read, what, 24 books?
25 books.
Oh, I might be missing one in there.
Well,
Then.
let me, that's what I saw when I looked at our Goodreads page for the book club.
I'll have to go back and make sure that I have all the right books. But we do have, regardless, we have more than 20 books, lots of stuff to talk about. Really excited for it. Definitely tune in.
25 books. Yep.
I'm going to have to go back through tallying them up. Make sure I have everything accounted for.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because also, don't forget, we read like another novella too, right? The Yark novella. So we squeezed that one in there.
I have that one on the list. I do feel like I'm just looking at the list now, and I do actually think I'm missing something in there. But really good
we'll
stuff.
Figure it out.
You know, the thing that makes me a little sad is they don't have like the what's coming next post on the Warhammer community page anymore. It used to piss me off because they updated it once every 3 quarters, whether they needed to or not. And but now we can't, like, when we talk about what's coming up next, now we're just gonna have to be completely, well, I hope one of these books is coming up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I was just looking at this the other day on the Warhammer community site.
I actually do have one, though, I can add to that. Because it's something I was told about like 2 years ago, and we still haven't seen it, but I'll save it for that podcast. But anyway, but after that, though, our next book, first book of the new year, is going to be Demon Hammer.
Oh my God, I totally forgot that book came out too. Yes. Demon Hammer coming up. We had done that vote a while back between like it, Dominion Genesis, Morvenval, and Above and Beyond.
And
so
Demon
Breaker, not to be mistaken with Demon Hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
And Oaths of Damnation. Like we had a big vote for all of them because they all came out like within 2 weeks of each other because Black Library is weird.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So
there's the dwarf book too, right?
Yeah, but we're not reading that until February, I think. Yes.
Do I have that book?
You should. I do.
I should.
If I do, I know you do.
Do I?
So, first of the year, January, we are starting with Demon Hammer. This will actually be the first year where our first book is not a Dawn of Fire book. No, wait, this year we didn't start Dawn of Fire. I'm sorry. Demon Hammer. Just focus on Demon Hammer. That's going to be our...
Focus on the Demon Hammer. Focus on the Demon Hammer.
Yep. That's going to be our first book next year. And so then next week we will have the book club awards. So it'll be a fun thing for us to do right before Christmas. You guys can view it right after Christmas. It'll be like, good times. So be sure to join us next time for the book club awards, and then join us for Demon Hammer. And so we are an unaffiliated. Sorry, we're that too, but we're an unofficial book club, and we're not affiliated with the Black Library or any of its affiliates. You can find both the vidcast and podcast on our website, WH40kbookclub.com. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, give a review, and all those wonderful things to the vidcast on YouTube and Spotify, or the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. And come join our Discord. They talk about all kinds of stuff in there. Like, I just kind of pop in like, oh, that's okay. They talk about what they're painting. Everyone talks about what books they're reading. There's a whole spoilers chat because I hate book spoilers. It's all kinds of fun in there. We also have fun discussions. I just said that. Okay, you know what? I quit too. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I am contagious.
I am. Oh, you know what? We also have Leontis, the Lord Solar. Ooh, when it rains, it pours, y'all. We got all kinds of books to read and
Oh
get
yeah, no.
through.
So we have.
Um,
So this is what we got starting up for January, February, and March. I posted this in the Discord, but we got Demon Hammer, Eidolon, the Votan book, which is like the High Call's Oath, Broken Crusade, and that one you just mentioned.
Leontis,
Yeah, Leontis.
Broken Crusade, Broken Crusade. Which one was Broken Crusade?
It's the one by Rob Young, but Black Templars.
Oh, yes! You guys, I did not buy this Votan book and I am tripping out. How did I not buy?
You didn't buy it?
I didn't buy it.
Oh my god.
Was I somewhere when it came up for pre-order? I might have been somewhere when it came up
Wow.
for pre-order. I don't even know what to say right now. And of course, it's not for sale on the Games Workshop site because why would it be? But I could buy Skaven Tide.
Sure.
No, thank you.
Well, dang. Well, okay.
I have the disappointment. I don't know how I let this happen, but yes. So join us next week for our book club awards. They'll be amazing.
As Jen figures out how she can get Votan, I guess, be ebook for you. So, but our site also has articles about adventures and reading other Warhammer 40k books and short stories outside the book club books. So please stay a while and read from a crag and pray for Jen's sanity right now.
Great tripping.
That's a great way to leave it. She's tripping balls, everybody.
I'm just like Ash Ketchum, I am tripping balls. Pokemon jokes are really hot and trendy right now.
Pokemon jokes are always hot and trendy.
Okay.
Right. Good night, everybody.
Right.